Hello everyone, welcome back once again in the content of the CompTIA Security Plus. So the CompTIA Security Plus is the beginner certification for the cybersecurity, and we are on the session 7. And in this session, we are going to talk about the environmental impact. So before we go ahead with the session, let me go through the syllabus that we have covered till now. So if I talk about that, what we have covered, so the first two things that we have covered, the first of all that we have it here, that is the security control. So that is completed, all of the content here. And fundamental concepts, we have it here, like integrity, availability, CI and all. So here we have covered almost all the things. Some of the things like were pending, that was the environment and control. So that's I'm covering today. So from later on, our focus will be on the change management and cryptographic solutions. So change management I can cover in the two sessions, and the remaining that will be cryptographic solutions. So I'm not sure that how many sessions I will take for the cryptographic, but obviously not 100, 2 or 3 sessions it will be done. All right, so come back to our environmental impact. Happy to go in the full screen. Obviously, I hope you like it. Cool. Here we go. So, under the environmental impact, we will talk about the fire, humidity, and the power fluctuations. Obviously, temperature as well. So, we talk about the fire, humidity, temperatures, and power fluctuations. There are some other environmental impacts as well, but obviously, we cannot cover all of them. We are covering these important ones because our electronic equipments such as computers, servers, storage systems means that the servers which are used to store data, and networking devices, for example, the router, switches, bridges, access point from where you get an Wi-Fi network, they are very sensitive to the humidity and temperatures as well as to the power fluctuations. So if you like it, if they are the under the very high temperature, they might not perform well. They take restart or they are heated up. They might be burned down. These things can happen. Usually, what happens that these environmental controls things are managed by the vendors. Like whenever it comes to the installation of the air conditioners, air conditioning systems, or it's talk about the fire detection systems, they have been handed over to third party. Vendors are usually managing them. So these are the vendor managed. So if they are vendor managed, we have to be very cautious about it. We have to include clear guidelines under the vendor management programs. We have to take care that vendor management program talks about the whatever the controls we should do, what should be the operating temperature, how the humidity should be, how the fire detection and control systems are in place, so that in case there is a fire, we can recover it very soon, not like it's gone away, right? Another thing is that environmental control products should be part of the vulnerability management, patch management, disaster recovery, and the business continuity and the assessment for or audit program. So whenever they are like part of the these programs, for example, assessment and audit programs. So let's say you have like any of the vendor has installed the air conditioner. So now an audit person will go and he will check it that whether the temperature is as per the conditions or not, proper ventilation is not. So that's why we have to take care that whenever we are giving contract for these things, proper documentation and the standard should be provided to them so that they can work according to the guidelines what has been issued to them. Now we will talk about some baselines. So if I talk about the baselines for these things, like temperature. So temperature is ideally we put in the conditions of the 18 to 27 degrees centigrade. not less than that, not more than that. So if you put temperature minus 4 degrees centigrade, obviously your equipments will not perform good. They may stop working, they have some other issues. So this is the operating temperature for them, 18 to 27. If you make your system work on the 45 degrees centigrade, they will be heated up, they will burn down. If I talk about the humidity, humidity is like very important factor, because if the humidity is very high, it will go for the corrosion. Your equipment will be lost. If you have the low humidity, they can cause the excessive static electricity, that we also call it as an EST. There will be a lot of sometimes you might have faced in like beginning of the summer, that you have excessive discharge on your body, electric discharge, like your hairs are standing up, right? You are uh, going out of your car, then you touch the car and then you get a shock. So these things happen because of the low humidity. So relative humidity, we try to put it like 50 to 70%. That is an acceptable range. Airflow should be properly designed so that all the equipments in the data center or any room have a proper temperature. I have seen a scenario that whenever people like, for example, this is the room, and here there are like multiple racks of the devices that has been there. They have put one exhaust here, right, to get air out, and air conditioners are set here. It means your cool air is going from here and hot air getting exit from here. This is a very poor design. Why it is poor? Because let's say the cool air is going from the left hand side to the right hand side. Now what's going to happen? The air goes here, that's cooler, that's fine, but it will be because there is a rack, whatever the systems or equipments are there, they will make that air warmer. It crosses the next rack, it will be warmer than that. And then obviously whenever it's here, it will be hot. And whenever it's going to the next rack, it's hotter. So what's happening here? That equipments in the last rack, they're always facing the or getting the hot air. So this is a very poor design. They should be designed something like this. For example, at the bottom, you are putting some air conditioners in everywhere, and at the top, you are sending the hot air outside, right? So that's how the flow should be there. Obviously, I'm not a designer of these things, but this is like one of the standard that's I have. That's what I'm suggesting. So this is just for your understanding that how the designs could be. Next thing is about the power. So power should be very clean and filtered, and there should be consistent voltage. Filtered power means like you might have seen that we have like DC to AC conversion, and sometimes ripples are always there. So we have to make sure that whatever the power is coming to the devices, that is clean and filtered. Next thing, the fire detection and suppression capabilities, and that's must. If there is fire in the data center on the room, nobody can save you. Obviously, if nobody can save you, so what about the equipments? They will all be gone, right? Human are more important than the devices, but the devices are also important. Next thing, I talk about the some power protections. I think I'm in the right slide. Yes. So power protection. So here in this slide, I'm going to talk about little bit about some terminologies which are related to the power supply. Very first terminology is the brownout. Why I'm telling these? Because these are the questions being asked in the CompTIA Security Plus certification exam. Very trivial or very low level knowledge, but unfortunately these are questions being asked in the exam, so we have to learn it. Brownout is a situation of a low voltage for a longer time. So for the longer time, it is a low voltage. We call it as a brownout. Sag is like a moment of low voltage. Surge, known as the prolonged period of a high voltage. That's how it is. Spike, from the name itself, it is very clear. A moment of a high voltage. It means that continuously supply, and all of a sudden is going to very high voltage, and all of your equipments damaged. Blackout. You might have heard this term very soon. Like in the newspaper, it usually comes that area has gone to the blackout. Blackout means that no power or power outage for a prolonged period. No long period. For 3 days, no power. 3 days is still quite long, but like 8 hours or 24 hours, no power. That's also named as the blackout. So, what we have to do for this? For the power protection control here, we have to take we have to supply the voltage regulators, surge protectors. Obviously, surge is this one, right? Power line conditioners and battery backups and UPS. So they are like very helpful whenever there's a blackout. They can help you here. And you can also provide some power resiliency control. For example, the battery backups for the shorter time, but in case there is a longer outage, for example, more than 8 hours or 9 hours, or like it depends on your battery backup. For example, your battery bank is providing a backup for the 2 hours. So if power is more than that, you need generator, or you have to dependent on some other power source, or supply diversity. Like you're getting supply from one company, and then you have to also get supply from the another company. So for example, there's a problem with one, you are still getting from another one. Also, people have I have seen that people are installing the solar panels at the top of it. So at least if it is daytime, they're getting the backup from the solar. So accordingly, like you have to deal with it, that the type of problem, that type of solution you have to apply there. Now I'm going to talk about the fire detection and suppression. So here is the slide. So what is the power detection? From the name itself, it is very clear. These are very simple terminology, but anyhow, I have to cover these. Fire detection means that discovering signs of the fire as early as possible. So if you detect fire at an early stage, chances are there you can minimize the damage due to the fire. But in case you have, the early detection, the lesser the damage. So that's why it is very important that you detect the fire as early as possible. And once you have detected it, it's now your responsibility to suppress these fire. So stopping or extinguishing that fire after it is detected is known as the fire suppression. Clear? Now what I have to do for this fire detection and suppression, what do you have to do? So install fire detection equipment such as smoke detectors, heat detectors, flame detectors, and if you find any other detectors, you can install. No restriction on that one, obviously, right? Take consultation from the local fire department. So obviously it is very important because they are expert SMEs on the fire department. So if you take advice from them how to install the equipments, where you should install the fire detector, where we should put some fire suppression techniques, right? So they can advise you better and work according to their guidelines. So if you are following their guidelines, chances are there in case of these emergency situations, you can safeguard your equipments as well as the persons there. Emergency power off switch helps in the hazardous situation. So if in case you have installed like any emergency power off switch, in case something is a power like issue, you can instantly shut down the power. So chances are there that the damage has been reduced, or in fact, like nobody will get shock if anybody, like any firefighters are there, they will not get shocked because of that. Portable fire extinguishers should be installed at certain locations. Obviously, like you might have seen that in offices or premises outside of there, they have seen like red fire extinguishers installed. Their equipments sit there. You can use them as sit here, right? So there, you can use them when there's a case of fire. So early, for example, this is just a flame, very small fire. You get it out, you wiped it out, you are safe. But in case you do not have these extinguishers and your fire spread, the more effort it will take to get it down. So in case of the data center or wherever we have some electronic equipments, we do not use water because water is like very good conductor of electricity. Chances are there you're using water and you get an electric shock. So we have some other options for that one. You can use suppression agent such as an FM200, inert gases, or they also call it as a Novec 1230. So these are type of inert gases. So whenever you have any power out, fire issue in any of the electronic equipment, you can use these agents in that cases. At the last, I will talk about some basic concepts. These are called as the elect discharge and interference. So here I will talk about the ESD. ESD stands for the electrostatic discharge. Obviously, whenever you have a discharge, you will speak like this, right? Your battery is low, but mine is not. I'm very happy. So ESD, it is basically the release of electricity, not electricity. When two body touch or rub is known as the ESD, right? So you might have seen like whenever you comb your hairs are and then you get your some broken pieces of paper near the comb, and then they get attached to it, they stick on it, right? This is an ESD, very low level. But this you can also see because electronic equipments are like very sensitive to this ESD. So whenever like we are working on the rack, for what I said, that let's say we have installed any of the equipments, what people used to do, they wear some bands on their hands here, and that band is attached to the rack, to the conductor, so that you and the rack remains on the same voltage level, and the chances are there whatever the voltage difference is there, that is getting discharged instantly, and we do not create any potential difference between you and the electric rack. So the DST is not generated in that case. I'm from the engineering background, so I know it better. Even if you don't know, that's fine. You have to, you know, uh, use the wristbands while working, and mats can be used for that one. Okay, so even if you don't know, that's fine. But as I'm just telling you that this is happening. Next thing is about the EMI, electromagnetic interference, and the RFI, that is radio frequency interference. So electromagnetic interference is basically like equipment and the copper cables are sensitive to EMI and RFI. So if you have like a wire going, if you have a little bit science in your background, you know that some magnetic fields are generated near the wire, right? So whenever this current is very high, these magnetic field is also comparatively high. In the electronic equipments, if they are near to that, they will interfere with that one, and the performance is degraded because of this interference. So there are some like issues like magnets should not be put near to the equipments, fluorescent light should not be put, or electric motors are like very high magnets, so they should not be put near to any of the electronic equipments. Copper cables should be shielded. So if they are shielded, the chances are there that whatever the electromagnetic interference is there, that is not going away from there. Optical fiber cables are not affected by EMI and RFI. So here in the optical fiber cable, the signal travels in the form of light, so they are not affected by the EMI or the RFI. So you're fine with that one. All right. So why I added this optical fiber? Because sometimes it's asked in the question, you know, exam. So that's it in this session under the environmental factor. Next session, I will talk about the change management, and I think some patch management or something, some other management. Till that, bye bye. See you in the next session. And yes, don't forget to say thank you. Thank you for listening me carefully. And if you have any question, feel free to write in the comment section. I will be happy to respond you back as soon as possible. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Keep practicing questions from my website. I hope you know it. If you don't know my website, ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to respond you back. Thank you.